everyone, we're back again, and we're talking through more full-service event conference platforms. And this week's topic is a platform called Swapcard. And Juan, you have firsthand experience with using Swapcard, so talk us through a little bit about that event and what your user experience was all about.
Yeah, so I just attended probably a little over a month ago. I attended Black Hat 2020 conference that normally takes place in Vegas, but granted current situations, we had a chance to use Swapcard for the entire event. It was a week-long event, and I really ended up with a great impression of the product. It was entirely web-based, but I never had a loading issue. And just a little bit of why I'm so surprised I didn't have a loading issue is I was coming through a double VPN, and we all know VPNs are known for hoarding bandwidth and putting a YouTube video or anything like that on buffer and multiple loadings throughout the entire time. And I did not see this issue with Swapcard, which I think speaks a whole lot about how light and well optimized their platform is.
Definitely. I think you hit a lot of key components of the platform. So it's a multi-day conference platform, kind of doing a full event build out. You were able to kind of customize your user track, right? So preloaded agenda in there, and if you wanted to tag certain meetings that were happening throughout the days or certain sessions that were happening throughout the days, you were able to kind of customize that agenda. And they have a really cool feature of if there's a keynote or anything like that, it'll pop up in kind of a live category, like broadcasting now right within the platform. So overall, like you had a pretty easy onboarding experience with using the platform as well, right?
Yeah, no, it was really good. I have had probably a few digital conferences this year. We had like Cisco Live earlier. We have Trailhead DX earlier too. And so far, this is probably the easiest one. It was so much easier to register. I didn't have to navigate through multiple screens. It was as easy as like I had an entire list per day of things, and I just click like the plus icon, and it just adds to like a right panel. So very, very user friendly compared to some of the stuff I have seen in previous conference this year.
Awesome. And that's a great segue. We can kick it off with the ease of use. We gave it an 8 out of 10 for that reason. Exactly, is I feel like the interface is very modular, but it checks all of the boxes that you would be looking for throughout an event. And Swapcard got its start as kind of a lead generation networking platform. So supplemental to your in-person conference, and they've kind of migrated over to the full virtual event, kind of taking in the entire project. So it's nice that some of those key elements were already kind of baked into what they had pre-COVID, and they're starting to transition into these fuller conferences. So speaking through a little bit of that customization though, Lauren, one thing that we noticed right away is that we're a little limited in the interface and what you can actually make a Swapcard conference or event look like. What did you find?
Yeah, so it's a pretty standard template, and it's very clean. It's a nice looking template. You just can't make a whole lot of customization for your brand. So it'll look like a Swapcard event, which is like, it looks fine. It's just not going to be completely tailored to your company. One of the interesting things with Swapcard is you can embed a widget directly onto your site. So even if there isn't a whole lot of branding you can do within the interface, you can take what you've made Swapcard and put a site instead of having like, here's a link that goes to this other site. It'll just all live right there. Users can stay on your website rather than moving around.
Definitely, and I think while yes, it's a minimalistic approach, at least it's still white labeled specific to your brand. You don't have Swapcard branding on top of your event, and they are starting to get into sponsorship and exhibitor as functionality as well. So right now it's kind of panel ads or display ads towards the side of the screen, but because it is such a minimalistic design, it is something that would catch your eye because there isn't a bunch going on the page. You aren't in this immersive environment like the fairs or in Trado. You're looking at a web interface, and it does look like one of those display ads. So the messaging does get across a little bit. Definitely. So speaking through some of those integrations and widgets and things like that, on the topic of security, we gave it an 8 out of 10. And one, kind of starting with what they manage, we felt like it was pretty secure. Do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, of course, they have all the right set of measures to ensure like your live feed or your video feed is not going to get hijacked or anything like that. Just from my experience, I used it being an attendee on an event like Black Hat, which we know it's a common target because just the nature of the event. We didn't experience a breach or any sorts of security issue, which is great. Now, fully GDPR compliant, which, you know, user data, information privacy, it's such a hot topic right now, and users are more and more conscious on where their data is. You are allowed to delete any data the platform captured from you, from your attendees. You own it. You delete it at any time. They will delete it right away. It's not like, yeah, we'll do it in 30 days. The minute you requested it, it happens. They don't sell it, and all the other policies within the GDPR protocols.
Definitely, and I think hitting on some of that registration information dips right into integrations. And if they'd had a big checkbox for me that we've mentioned in other reviews, is that this platform does integrate, at least registration sync-wise, between a lot of different registration platforms out there. So Cvent and Eventry, you know, there's an entire list that will be linked down below. But it's one of those key components when you're planning an event, of if you're accepting payment information, if you're having attendees update information, usually that's done with a registration platform that's external from your production platform. And that's where I really feel like, as long as the two systems talk to one another, you've checked a big box. That being said, I do think that some of their exporting, because of the GDPR compliance, they've skirted around some of those exporting and external integrations that we would want to see, like back into Salesforce or back into an email marketing campaign. You know, there's no double opt-in or anything like that, because all of the registration information is basically coming from a third party. So the integrations as a whole, we gave it a 6 out of 10, but with a big asterisk there, mentioning that they do integrate with a lot of registration softwares out there. So pricing model is kind of interesting. So we gave this an 8 out of 10 because I feel like as long as you bake it into your event price, and what I mean by that is, so as long as in your registration of whatever the conference is, $7 of that is going towards the platform cost, you're pretty protected. I think that approach and that scalability model, especially if you're doing it at volumes of, you know, thousands of people, is something that, yes, can be a high ticket price, but you're already working that math into what your baseline attendee registration is. Now, what can be helpful is on smaller amounts, you know, you're looking at a smaller platform cost as well. That being said, it starts at about $7 per attendee is how they cover the subscription costs. And then there's obviously exhibitors and expo pricing and lead add-ons that you can add on into your subscription as well. Overall rating, we gave it a good 8 out of 10 because I feel like, especially as a emerging conference, or if you are exploring, you know, going completely virtual next year, but you don't have the budget to put into one of these enterprise level softwares, this has all of the functionality baked right into it. The user experience, although minimalistic, definitely checks all of the right boxes. And we feel like for any sort of recruiting event or tech conference or trade show, there's enough bells and whistles there that at a certain, you know, lower price point, that this would be a good entry platform to go into. And Juan, any last thoughts?
So in terms of live streaming content, you are limited to either YouTube or Vimeo. I don't see it as a major downfall. I think there's a lot of third-party solutions that kind of can push to YouTube that will end up making it compatible with a lot more things, with using YouTube as kind of like the middleman. So not a big deal, but just something to keep in mind if it's relevant to the type of content you're putting out.
Yeah, and I would be anxious to keep tabs on that as well, because I do feel like they have the video component built into the chat functionality, but they haven't kind of dipped over into the actual event content functionality yet. So they have the coding capabilities to do some of that live streaming, but they haven't quite fleshed it out, I don't think, for the entire conference yet. So something to definitely keep tabs on. Perfect. So overall, really great platform for a full service conference type event, and there will be more to come. So until next time.